Welcome everyone to the session with Glenda Richardson, who's going to be talking about writing for studios. It's a Q&A. I guess all of you have kind of been through this before. I recognize you, so feel free to ask questions. You can use a raised hand emoji or just type you want to ask a question in the chat box. But we can get started. We can let Glenda introduce herself, talk about how she got her start, and go from there. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Glenda. I'm a writer. I've been writing ever since I was a kid. It's always what I wanted to do. And so I studied literature and feature and film writing at Duke University. And then when I graduated, I moved down to Atlanta. I'm from New York. I moved to Atlanta because the industry was just sort of starting. I thought it'd be easier to break in, so I started working there as a PA. And then I was on a movie. I was a parking PA, and there was this woman that had this binder and these glasses. She was really quiet, and I was like, "What does she do?" And I took her binder one day when she left at lunch. She was a script supervisor, and I was like, "I think I can do this." And so then I became a script supervisor and worked on the indie scene in New York for a few years before I moved to LA. I didn't want to get stuck being a scriptie. I was really good at it, and my goal was always to be a writer. So I needed to like leave and break that comfort so I wouldn't forget my dreams. So I moved to LA and found the film industry very different from the industry in New York. It was much more competitive, and it wasn't as much fun. New York was everyone was sort of working as a team. It was a whole different vibe. So I started temping and got a job as an assistant at BET, working for this vice president. And it was a great experience just being able to see stuff come in from the pitch to actually being on air in a short period of time. I was working reality. And I loved my boss. I would have worked for her at Starbucks. Like, she was bomb. She's a mentor still to this day. So anyway, a new regime came into BET. They brought in an in-house writer, and I was like, "Hey, I want to write. That's what, can I come work for you?" And he was like, "Okay, you look like you're too nice to work in comedy, but if that's what you want, like, come on in." So I worked with him for like 2 years. It was really more of an apprenticeship because it was just me and him developing content for BET. We wrote like 8 pilots together. It was really just he didn't treat me like as an assistant. We were really just working together. So anyway, his name was Warren Hutcherson, and he was the first Black non-performing writer on SNL. So really just getting my chops, just learning a comedy from him was like a dream come true. So from there, I basically worked my way up as a writer's assistant, still very much on the TV side. And I got to Real Husbands of Hollywood as a writer's assistant or script coordinator, which is like one step above a writer's assistant. Most of the shows I had been on at the time, I was working towards being staffed on a TV show, but the EP would get fired or the show would get canceled. So I was very like horizontal for a long time. So anyway, I got to Real Husbands of Hollywood as a scripts coordinator, finally got to the table as staff, and did that for a season. And then Kevin Hart was building out his production company and wanted to have some in-house writers. So he hired me, and I was with him for 4.5 years, writing across the board, pretty much everything that he was a part of. He was involved in
Your feed is freezing.
Hosting reward. He did a scam because he had a video game. So then I'm sorry, does someone have a question?
Your
Oh, okay. So we wrote Night School. I'm sorry, are you losing me?
Yeah, it's freezing up a little bit.
Oh, I'm freezing. Okay,
Yeah.
let's see. Hold on one second.
So we were losing her just about when she was talking about Kevin Hart. That's kind of when I lost.
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Can you all see me and hear me? Sorry about that.
Yeah, you were just talking about when you had gotten with Kevin Hart and started working with him when you started
Okay.
So if
Okay.
you
Got it. Yeah, I'll back up a little bit. So Kevin Hart, as I'm sure you know, he's involved in a lot of different things. So I got a chance to be a part of everything that he was really a part of and write for him in all capacities, for TV, for film, hosting engagements, and stand-up comedy. He had a reality show. He had a video game. So it was a really great opportunity to just have the opportunity to write across all these mediums, because usually, you meet a writer and they're either TV or film, sometimes both. It's hard to do both at the same time. So really working for him gave me that opportunity. And so finally we wrote Night School. I was one of the writers on that, uncredited, unfortunately. And from there, then I sold projects to Netflix. And after 4.5 years, kind of writing for Kevin and his voice, a very male-centric, broad comedy. My goal has always been to write. I have a drier sense of humor. I want to write for women. So, not really having the opportunity to do that there. So I left and have really been pursuing writing for women, young women, Black women, in the comedy space. So since then, I have written 3 features for Tiffany Haddish, and then I had a feature with Keke Palmer, and then have done stuff on the TV side with some other Black women. So that's where I am right now. Right before the strike, I just turned in a movie called Imaginary Friend, starring Tiffany Haddish. It was with Universal. It's a half animated, half live action project that is really exciting. And so really, like, I met Tiffany on Night School, and I was on the set doing Punch Up, and we began late. And just knowing her voice and knowing how to write for her has been helpful in getting work. And she's been helpful in getting me in the room with these producers and studio execs. But once you get in the room, then it's really all about the work. So that's a little bit of like how I got started. I can talk about how did I land these jobs, because again, my connections with like Kevin and Tiffany have gotten me closer to the people that can hire me, but they always want to read something. So I think it starts out with a strong spec. That's what gets you like actually into the door. And then it's sort of the team of people that you surround yourself with. So I think every single job that I've had in this industry has really been a direct result of knowing someone. It's having someone vouch for you. That's really everything. And I don't necessarily mean like working events. Of course, those can be helpful and you can meet people and establish relationships. But what I really mean is like when you get a job, whatever that job may be, and just working hard and being present in that, whatever that work is. Because when people see you working hard, they want to hire you and they want to help you. It's how I ended up working for Kevin. I was on the set of Real Husbands of Hollywood. And I was just always hustling, working really hard. It's also how I got to Tiffany. I was on set for Night School, and I saw her sort of being underserved in terms of punching up. And so I was punching up her jokes, really looking out for her. So of course she's going to want me to bring me on to other projects because she knows that I'm going to try to provide her with the best written material as possible. I've had people in other departments just see me working, like in clearances or hair and makeup, vouch for me and connect me with other people, with showrunners and producer friends who have also gotten me work. So I really think, in this industry, you don't know who can help you. You don't know who's watching you. So you shouldn't really focus on them. You should focus on you and the work. It's also how I got my manager. I happen to have the same manager as Kevin Hart. which I never thought would be possible. Like, why would he want to manage me? He's managing like big time clients, and I'm little Glenda. But you know, he saw my work. He was reading what I was writing. And when I approached him to ask him for help to get a manager, he was like, "Why can I manage you?" And I was like, "Okay, sure." So from there, I started out with a manager first. I think, you know, people are always about like getting your team, getting an agent. But if you're not really working, then they're not going to work for you. So once I felt like I had a body of work, people were interested in hiring me. That's when I started to put my team together. So I had my manager first, and then I got my agents. And my agents have really sort of opened the door for me, I think, in terms of getting more of these opportunities. And then with my spec and my team, you know, the team starts submitting you. Their job is to sell you to the producers, to the execs, and get them interested and excited about you and actually submitting to you. And so I've probably taken about 85% of the subs that I receive. And that's really speaking to like how well my agent knows me. She knows what type of material that I'm going to be into. So like, you know, she doesn't even send me stuff that I'm probably not going to want to do. And then from there, I probably pitch on, probably since 2021, I've pitched on an OWA. It's called an open writing assignment, probably at least once a month. So, you know, since then, let's say I've pitched for like 40. And then out of all those pitches, I've gotten 7. And then out of the 7, like 4 of them died, and didn't really, you know, see the light of day. And then the 3, and then I've had 3 that I've been hired to write, and none of those have gotten produced as of yet. So I've been working, but like no one has seen anything that I've done. But it means that I have a ton of practice. And so I can talk a little bit about like how I actually pitch on these open writing assignments and getting these jobs. And when I say the open writing assignments are the studio jobs. So it'll start out, you know, my agent will get a sub and send it to me. Sometimes it's just an idea. It may be a book. It may be a pre-existing script that they need a rewrite on. And so then I'll like read whatever the material is and sort of just get overall thoughts on, you know, put together my overall thoughts on how I feel, if it's something I'm interested in. And what I like to do now is I set a sort of a general meeting with the producers to get a feel of them, to see if they're people I want to work with, because this is a collaborative experience. And then to get more information on the project. In the beginning, when I was doing this, you know, I would just sort of jump in and pitch. But then I realized like I was doing myself a disservice, because a lot of times, you know, producers are like, "Oh, we're totally open. We want to, whatever your take is, we want to hear." But really, they have some sort of idea of what they want, of where they want to go. And, you know, I think just the closer you are to what they want, the better the chance of getting the job is. So in this general meeting, I sort of ask a lot of questions. I throw out some broad strokes in terms of like what I'm thinking, what I like, what I don't like. And then, you know, sometimes my initial thoughts don't align with the producers. For instance, there was this one project I was actually really excited about. I had a whole idea, like I had a pitch, you know, in that general. And I felt really strongly about like the mechanism driving. The plot had to change. It had to be completely different. But the characters were interesting, and it was a script I was rewriting. I was up to rewrite. The producers were like, "Oh, that's different. That's interesting. But we want to keep it this way." And I was like, "Well, that doesn't work. And here's why." And they were like, "Okay, well, thanks for taking this meeting." And so, you know, I knew it was over. I knew I didn't get the job, and I was fine with it, because we weren't creatively aligned, and I wasn't going to deliver the project they wanted. And it wasn't going to be fun, you know, trying to make their movie work. You know, this is a job, this is my career, but I'm writing movies, like it should be fun. I'm writing comedy movies, it should be fun. And when it starts to not be fun, then it just feels like work. And then it's like, why am I doing this? Um, so anyway, so I say that to say this is why I take I start with this sort of general meeting to get a feel on the project and the people. And so then from there, if am I freezing again?
No, no, no. I wanted to ask you a
Oh,
question.
oh yeah, go ahead.
About like, so you kind of started out as a script supervisor, and like, so
Mhm.
what about the skills that you learned as a script supervisor has gotten you to the place that you are now?
Oh,
Like,
sure. Yeah, being a script supervisor is a great experience because you have to work so closely with the script and you work very closely with the director. So you see what works and what doesn't work when you're in production. And so for me, it's been helpful, even working in development, like my whole career, even though it's been all like all over the place. I've always worked really closely with story. And so it helps me in seeing what is going to work in a story and what doesn't work. And just knowing, um, hearing dialogue, like, you know, like I didn't go to film school, but I feel like I was trained. My real life experience was my training to sort of get to where I am now. Um, Working with a director, you see like you get to learn the styles. Like a lot of newer writers write a lot of directing. Their scripts are written like they're going to direct it, and that's usually not the case. And so when you get a script and it feels like it's already being directed, that can be a turnoff. Writing for on this level for studios, it's very collaborative and everyone wants to have a hand in it. Everyone wants to have touched it and have a part of it. And if it feels like it's already done and there's no space to be creative and to put your, you know, your onus on it, then people tend to shy away from it and they don't want to be a part of it. So yeah, so I think being a script supervisor, sorry, um, just sort of helped me get to really know what works and what doesn't work in a script.
okay, and then Joe has a question. Let me,
Glenda, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us, and I enjoyed your background and your knowledge. I just have a quick question about that substantive storytelling aspect. It's very simple. You know, when they say don't put into directorial things, you know, things like could you put cut to in there? You know, when you're segueing from one scene to the other, is that okay to do?
Yeah, I think as long as the sort of directing notes are more of a guide and it's not really heavy-handed, you're not in every action line, you're not saying smash two or
Yeah.
close in on, you know, like it feels like it should feel organic to the script in terms of like telling the story. If you should be trying to tell the story, but not direct the story. I know it's like a small difference, but you can really feel it when you're reading a script and that person wants to direct it. And that's great if you're going to direct it, but if you're using it as a submission or if you're writing for someone else, it could really be a turnoff.
Is it a turnoff too when I see a lot in writing? I guess it depends on the reader, but when you see we see this person do this or we see them enter the room, I just write so and so enters the room or so and so starts doing something.
Yeah, it's better to just be sort of direct. You know, you end up cutting a lot for pages. You know, studios don't want to see script, especially comedy scripts, longer than like 90 pages is ideal. And so all of those extra words are making your script longer. So you just get to the point, say, you know, get in, get out.
Great.
That's also a skill that I've learned, being like a writer's assistant and script supervisor and a script coordinator. People want a page count. And so I'm really good at cutting stuff. I don't hold anything too close, like I'll have some jokes that I think are hilarious. I laugh at them and then I'm like, okay, we don't need that. And it's gone. So yeah, I think the more succinct you can be and as clear as possible in the shortest amount of words is the best, because this medium is, telling stories through pictures. So you don't need all the words, even though you think you do, especially as a writer.
And what is the
Thank you.
difference between a script coordinator and a script supervisor? Is it just protocol?
Yeah, no, it's very different. So script supervisor is working with the continuity of the script. And so keeping track during production, what's happening, where, when, costumes, makeup, props, etc. Script coordinator is actually more of is doing the business. It's a script coordinator is on the TV side, and they're handling the business of the scripts. So basically supporting the producers in terms of like getting clearances for names or for proofing the script, making sure the script is correctly formatted and aligned for production. It's more of a clerical job, but usually the script coordinator was a writer's assistant, and a writer's assistant, as I'm sure you may know, is in the writer's room, assisting the writers, taking a lot of notes, really taking a lot of notes and keeping track of everything for the writers. You don't necessarily always see a writer's assistant on the feature side, but sometimes you do. I've worked as a writer's assistant on the feature side before as well. But yeah, that's the basic difference.
Okay.
I had a quick question. Glenda, hi. Thank you so
Yes,
much.
hi.
And is it okay if I ask?
Sure. Yeah.
Thank you. My question was in regards to like proximity, your location and living in California. Do you think that, because you mentioned you moved there, just curious where you moved from, and then did that help you with connecting with Kevin Hart and Tiffany? And do you think that being in LA is best place for a screenwriter to be?
I think right now, especially after 2020, it's definitely opened up where you can be and where you can do this job. A lot of people I know that were in LA have left LA. They're like, we can do this in Arizona and fly, an hour to get here if we need to. Initially, when I started, it was in 2007. And so there were no Zooms and anything. I'm from New York. I was in New York for a while. I started in Atlanta because Atlanta, the industry was growing, and then I moved back to New York. And then I moved to California because LA was like the big hub. I think being here is definitely beneficial because you get to meet people. And again, I think this is an industry where your relationships are definitely helping you get jobs. When you're in a writer's room and you're a writer's assistant, and now again, it's changing. A lot of rooms are on Zoom, but you need to be in the room. You need to be physically there. And then in production, it's the same thing. So being on set is how I've really made these relationships with talent that have really sort of made my career move forward. So it really depends. I think, depending on what you want to do. If you want to be a screenwriter, then write scripts. And if you have a really great script, it's gonna work out for you anyway. But I do think at some point your career you do have to be here. You might not have to move here. But most of the work is still out here. The people are here. And if they want to meet you in person, then it's easier than being somewhere else. I don't know if I really answered that question.
Oh, that helped a lot. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, and then do you need representation to be able to get in front of studios to pitch? Is it possible to do it without?
Yes, I would say you definitely do need representation. Most studios, even production companies, won't take submissions without it being sent from an agent or a manager. There's a way, I think, the assistants are really the gatekeepers to bigger people. And so there is a way, like if you create a relationship or you reach out to an assistant and you do have a good project, that they can move it up for you, but that's sort of like a backdoor way in. It is best to be submitted by a professional. Another way is like you can enter competitions, and then if you are like high ranking or you win, that's a way in as well. But really, no one really accepts unsolicited material, unfortunately.
Okay, and then Renella, you had a question. Did you want to ask it, or do you want me to?
Yes, thank you so much. Hi, and thank you for
Hi.
all the great information. My question is in regard to what is the best suggested route to become a writer's assistant? Because, there's so many writers that are established and all of that. How would you select who to approach per se, and what is the best way to do that?
Good question. I think the best way, it's really hard to get writer's assistant jobs, which is it's like a catch-22. It's, you want to, how do you get in the door? The first job is definitely the hardest. For me, it was being physically in these spaces that allowed me to get my first writer's assistant job. So I mean, I think the best way is by knowing other writer's assistants, knowing the people that whatever position you want, knowing people that are in that position, and at some point the writer's assistant is going to get staffed or want to leave, and so who can they sort of be like, oh, this is a good person that can replace me, who can they shepherd in. So it's really forming relationships with those people, and you can meet other writers assistants at networking events, or just out and about town. One thing I think to keep in mind about networking is that you should always be networking sort of like on your level. A lot of times, you go to an event and you want to talk to like the head of the studio or whatever, but really you should be focusing on the assistant, because that's the person that can get you the job. That's the person that's going to be growing up in the industry with you. So, and it's about making real relationships with people who want to help you, not necessarily like trying to use people to get ahead, if that makes sense. I mean, everyone is out here trying to move up and to grow their career, but you don't want to feel like people are using you to do that. So it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of a little common sense, but people, I think, sometimes forget that.
Okay, thank you.
But it is hard.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of the networking and the relationships and harnessing the right relationships.
Yes, definitely. And again, you never know where they're going to come from. Like a friend of mine was we weren't actually friends in undergrad. She moved out here, but we connected at like a Super Bowl game, and she was a lawyer, and she wanted to write. And so when I was leaving a position, or I knew there was a position, I was like, hey, do you want to be a writer's assistant? I can sort of train you and help you do that. And we just, we were at a Super Bowl game and started talking, and not an actual game, at a viewing party. And that helped start her career. So, you never know like where it's going to happen. But I think it's being your authentic self. Don't be fake, like just presenting, I don't know, it sounds cliche, but putting it out in the universe, like what you want to do, and
yes,
and hoping it comes back to you.
So
Thank you.
And you kind of got your start as a parking PA, is that what you said?
I did, yes.
that wasn't-
It was a night shoot. I was one of like 5 main PAs. I was the only female, and they put me in this dark parking lot, very, very far away from set. I was like, this is dangerous. Um, and I was really tired, not used to working nights. It was pretty bad. But you know, I knew this is what I wanted to do, and this was the first job I got, and so I took it, and I stayed with it. And one day I got to set, and got to see what they were shooting. Oh, it was an indie movie that I don't even know where it ended up, but yeah.
But all the cars were in the right place. That's all that mattered, right?
They were, yes, yes.
So getting your foot in the door is really, you know, a great way in any possible way is kind of the way to get in the business.
Yeah, definitely. And using whatever connections, whatever leverage you have. Again, like I went to Duke, so if there's any ever Duke alumni who reaches out, I'm like glad to help. If I'm from New York, if you are like, hey, I'm from New York, I'm like, oh, me too. And that, you know, it's just using whatever connections you have to sort of get to know people, and you never know where or when it will lead you somewhere. So many times I've met people years before, and then they pop up again later on, and they're like, oh, I remember you from that one time. And because they remembered me and they don't know the other person, they want to take a second meeting with me just because we met 5 years ago, and had a good conversation.
Well, my last producing partner went to UNC, so he's out.
No, but still, like there's a love-hate there. So I would talk to whoever that is.
Joseph, you had another question. Did you want to ask?
Yes, I just wanted to know if you have any tips for how to get an agent. You know, I've reached out before on my own. I've called, I've emailed, I submit to some film festivals. The film festivals have been the better way to go, but you know, really just trying to get that agent. I've gotten some feedback from my writing, but any tips for how to get an agent?
Sure. When you've submitted, you've gotten feedback from agents?
No, these were more so like production companies.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Yes, as another, the how-tos are there's no standard way
Right.
in this industry. I think it's helpful, again, having people vouch for you. How do you get those people is the question. I don't know. It's being in these spaces. So say you got feedback from a production company, and you got good feedback. Did you ask then, is there someone, do you have a manager, agent friend that I could talk to? Did you like continue that conversation?
I didn't, because we were so involved in the script and how I could make the script better. They had a lot of notes and we went over that. But I do have their contact information, and they were really open to staying in touch. I guess, how would you go about, you know, what would you ask them?
Yeah. I think anytime you do you start a relationship and it does seem like people are open to continuing that, like it's going to be on you probably to keep that relationship growing, because you're the one at this point in your career that needs their help, you know? So I would, and a lot of times, people feel like maybe they're bothering you because you reach out and they don't respond right away. But that's also because I think in Hollywood, everyone is hustling. Everyone is not at where they want to be. And so your emails can get lost, honestly. Like, I mean, you've done it in your own life to have an answer to text or something. So it's really staying on top of these relationships, and you have to be the proactive party here. So, if they gave you notes, did you address the notes in your next pass? Yes, that's good. Okay.
Yeah.
Then
Well,
I
yeah,
would
definitely.
maybe,
And their notes were really great. Like I was really impressed, and they sat down with me for an hour and a half for a free, you know,
yes,
it
I mean,
didn't cost money.
that sounds like they're interested in you. And so I would just open the conversation back up and ask them if you can submit the next draft, um, because you are interested in getting representation. Um, the one thing I think people are willing to help other people out in Hollywood, but you have to tell people what you want. No one's gonna really just say, hey, hey Joseph, like let me read that script again, you know. You really have to be the proactive party. Um, you know, no one's gonna just ask you like, are
Right.
you do you need help finding an agent? Do you need, you know? So whatever relationships you do have, try to leverage those. Again, always ask first to see if it's okay. Like I wouldn't just send the next draft. I would say, you know, I loved your notes, they were so helpful. Um, would you mind reading this next pass? And because I want to, you know, pursue representation. Um,
I went to Fordham University in New York, and
mhm,
I I met someone on LinkedIn. He was a Fordham University alumni, and
mhm.
we connected. And he actually works on a production company that's been in the Big Apple Film Festival too. And
Oh, okay.
you know, it was like he took an hour out of his day just to talk to me. And
Hmm, hmm.
you know, I think you're just very right about things have to be organic. Like I I don't ever want a person to think or I would never want to use a person. Like it just has to kind of grow and be a natural thing.
Hmm.
But Bobby was you know, great to be in touch with. I haven't in the past couple of weeks. I haven't reached out just because of work. But would you
Hmm.
say just keep those lines of communication open?
Definitely. Always, yes. One little trick or that I would do, you know, when I was starting out is like I would wear my like a little Duke pin, like, you know, whatever your whatever set you rep, like, you know, put it on you, or like if you have something about you that stands out, so that when you're in these spaces, you make it, it's someone's like, oh, I love your glasses, like you have something that
In common.
will connect you with somebody else, you know,
Well, Bobby,
visually.
like I reached out to him on LinkedIn. I just said I just saw, oh, he's from Fordham, and I just sent
Mhm.
a quick note, and he actually got back. He was like, "Yeah, I would love to connect with
Yeah,
Fordham people," and
yeah,
was really cool about it.
yeah.
Okay,
People love connections.
Deirdre, do you have a question?
See, my dad went to Temple. I'm like,
I did too.
My sister
really?
went to Temple. My younger
Look at
sister
that.
did, and I'm applying to Temple's law school, so I'm hoping I get in there.
Oh, good luck. That's where my dad went, Temple Law.
Good school.
Okay, sorry. For some reason, I could not find like the unmute, so I can't see you. I think it's on driving mode for some reason. But thank you so much for like everything that you said so far. I'm taking notes. And my question, just making sure you guys can hear me first.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes, we hear you.
Okay. Yeah, like I'm in LA now. I've been here for about 2 months. With the strikes and everything, I've tried to support. Cool thing about
Hmm.
that is you meet people. And
Hmm.
some of the, you know, some of the more established actors and directors and
Hmm.
people that I've met really just through like family friends or just striking up conversation have pretty much said like, hey, you should actually go and support the strike. At first
Hmm.
I felt really apprehensive about going, if that makes any sense, because I'm like, oh, I'm not in either of these unions. Met some people, they seem really helpful. They are younger people, but there are like the strikes going on now. So I wanted to ask you, I have several contacts of people who are very established as well as people who are really negatively impacted by the strike now, but who have kind of broken
Hmm.
into industry writing They're in writers' rooms. They're talking about some of the issues that come with places like streamers having smaller rooms and how they feel a lot of opportunities, even for them, and kind of the mid-range is drying up. So how do you approach someone maybe on your level at this point who might, they're above your level, of course, but that might feel strained, right? And then it seems like the people who are more established are a lot more helpful just because they can be. They don't feel as financially squeezed. They feel very confident in their connections and who they know. What types of things would I be showing them, right? To say like, hey, I'm someone who deserves to have a chance in a writer's room as an assistant.
Well, welcome to LA. That's great that you've been out here and that you've been meeting people on both ends of the spectrum. So even though, you know, the people on the lower end and the middle are struggling, most of us are struggling. It's just the very like 1% that's not struggling. You know, we're still, I'm going to talk as a middle to lower person. We are still wanting to move forward and, you know, move ahead, move up and ahead in our careers. And so, you know, if you met a writer's assistant, for instance, that writer's assistant is still going to be trying to be staffed on a show. So depending on what you want to do, if you want to write I'm assuming you're a screenwriter and you want to write films.
TV is my interest right now.
Oh, okay.
I've written something small for 2 short films, but they're not finished. And that's the reason why I'm like, well, I think these people are very helpful that I've met because I met them so organically, right? But I told them, hey, when I came to LA, I was kind of filming this road trip across the country. And here's a trailer that I have of some really key moments from that particular unscripted, like clearly non-union personal project. But I don't know what I would be wanting to show them for something that's scripted.
So I think, again, it depends on what you want and what your goals are. Like, you know, really decide what they are, and then be very direct in terms of what you want and how people can help you. So again, I think it's great that you've met these people and then have established relationships. Definitely keep in touch with these people and maintain these relationships. But when you know, ask to sit down with somebody, or you send a script for someone to read, like, it should really be intentional, and know that these opportunities, like, once you sort of like use one of them, you may not get another one if you fail that one, you know? So if you're going to sit down with someone, have questions, I've taken, again, like, if there's something, like, I pretty much sit down with anyone. But sometimes I've had a meeting and they have no questions. They just kind of look at me and want me to talk. And I'm like, well, you initiated this conversation. What do you want from me? How can I help you? This is not, you know, right now you're just wasting my time. And so when you reach out again, I'm probably going to be busy. So like, be very, you know, direct and guided in terms of what you want out of these opportunities, these sessions with people. In terms of like the younger people that are coming up, I still think those are the people that will actually help you get the jobs that you're looking for, because they're going to be the ones looking for replacements. If you've met, I don't know, maybe showrunners that you've met, or like maybe higher level writer, director types, they're usually not the ones at the front line of hiring the lower staff people. Like, they will be the final say, but they're not the ones getting in the resumes and starting those like beginning interviews or conversations. So it's really the people, you know, that are starting out, that are on the lower end, that I think will actually help you get the job. But definitely, you know, keep the relationships with both ends intact. Did I answer your question?
It does. I feel like I have so many more questions, but I won't like hog. I know other people have questions too. But can I send any questions to you?
To me?
Like, just by email? Or I can
Sure.
ask more now. I don't know what our
Yeah,
time
sure,
restriction
sure.
is.
Yeah, I will put my email in the chat.
Okay, I appreciate it. But just a heads up, I'm going to ask you more about kind of like what those conversations would be like, sitting down with these people who can make decisions, because let's just assume the strike is going to end soon.
Yes.
What my questions are around kind of like how finished should certain things be? Should you be sharing these specific ideas that you may have? And if you have like a very
Well,
production background, like I've done freelance stuff, I've done PA things, but it's been a long time. It's like, how do you convince someone like, hey, I should be this person who is doing this right now? But
right.
like I
I
said,
mean, I
those
would
are
just
like
say
such a longer conversation. Hmm.
right. Generally, I think you should always be putting your best foot forward and using each opportunity like it's probably the one and only. And so, again, especially if it's someone more senior, you don't want to send them a draft that you haven't had a round of notes from like multiple parties, that you don't feel like you need to feel like this is it. This is going to get me whatever job or into the position that I really want. Because again, once you've used that opportunity, if you haven't put your best foot forward, then you're probably not going to get a second opportunity. So definitely know like your audience, you know, don't waste the opportunity once you have it.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
And then one of the things that was in the heading of this panel was like what specific skills writers should focus on, the difference, I guess, between studio writing and independent film writing. Is that something that there's a difference? Should you be writing lower budget things if you're going indie, or does the budget matter when you're writing a feature that you want to submit somewhere?
If you're writing a feature that you just want to submit, and are you writing a sample? Are you writing it as something that you hope to sell, or does it matter?
That's something that you have to sell.
So I would say whenever you are submitting a script, I would say don't think about it in terms of what it would take to produce it, because if and when you do sell the script, a lot of hands will end up being involved, will come in and it will change anyway. So I think it's always best to put, again, your best foot forward. And so if you're writing an action movie set in Dubai with like, I don't know, things exploding and like a lot of big set pieces, don't hold back because you think that you can only sell it and it's going to be like a $5 million budget or something like that. I would say write the story that you want to tell, and put everything in it. Also, the bigger set pieces are probably more memorable and will actually be more helpful in terms of getting people to remember you, and even if they don't want to purchase that script, to maybe hire you to write another script. So wait for the producers to tell you this is too much and take that out before you do it, before you're editing that yourself. But make sure it's true to the story that you're telling. If you're writing like I don't know, a simple rom-com and a bus explodes and it doesn't fit, then it's gonna be a little jarring and not make sense.
Gotcha. Okay, well, did you want to leave us with any wise words of any suggestions?
Let's see. Yeah, I would say, I guess, maintaining whatever connections that you make, I think is the biggest, and aside from writing and working on your craft and just becoming the best writer that you can, it's these connections, I think, that you leverage that will really help you move forward in your career. Whether it's reaching out, like I'm an avid book reader, and so like I'll bring IP to producers and to and to execs to see if they're interested. Like, I keep the conversation going. Whether I get a project, the project that I've, you know, or I'm up for or not, I might get, I've gone into development with other companies and other producers, even though I didn't get that first job. Like, really every job that I get is from having an established relationship with these producers or executives. And so yeah, so just maintain whatever relationships you make, that you like. Again, I've worked with people that I will never work with again because it wasn't a good experience for me. This is also cliche, but life is short. The world is crazy. You should be happy and shouldn't have to work with crazy people. So
Glenda, I just had one last question. I sent you a LinkedIn invite. Do you check that at all? I don't know if some people do, some people don't. I would definitely love to stay in touch and maintain, get to know you more. You know, if that's a good way to do it, or if email's the better way.
Email is probably better. I haven't been on LinkedIn much, just because I haven't needed to use it in my career. And so I don't check it as often, but yeah, but my email is there.
Okay.
So I would use it if I were you.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Glenda. It's been an informative, enjoyable afternoon and or morning where you are. Thank
you. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.